Hello, everyone. I'm Christine West, and welcome to the Emotional and Dilemma podcast. I'm super excited. I have a wonderful guest today, Tina Kadish. We met recently networking online. She's off on the East Coast of New York, and I loved when we connected and talked, after this networking event about her whole entire work about going from pain and really moving out of that pain and really finding the steps to move forward, which I'm certain we're going to talk about because lots of people out there I know have pain. So, and we all want more joy and we want to feel good. But I am super jazzed because welcome, Tina, to this podcast, this live. And will you share with folks more about you? Because I can't, I can share what my impressions are, but I want people to see how wonderful you are through.
Well, thank you, Christine, for having me here. It's an honor, and I love being on shows where I can share, my story, but also be of value to your listeners and to you as the host. But yes, I am, my business is From Job to Joy, and I've been focusing a lot over the years of helping women find their passion. They might have lost their job. Like me, I've lost my job in the past. I've also gotten divorced in my life, and I've also lost a daughter. And so I've gone through 3 losses in my life. And so there's pain with each situation. However, I've always been, except the layoff, that was something that I couldn't control because a lot of times things happen to us, but they're really happening for us.
Correct. Yes.
Something that I've learned myself that, we fall into the mindset of victim, why me, when, what is the purpose of us going through this? Like, what are we supposed to do with this mess?
Yes. How did you, I'm curious, because a lot of people, struggle with, that whole entire mindset of why me, I'm in this mess. How did you become so wise?
My faith is what keeps me going. And, not being religious or anything like that. It's really believing in a higher power.
Okay.
I tap into the strength of the higher power, and that I believe that things happen. There's a plan, that things, we can't control everything. We can't control anything, really. We can control our attitude. We can take action. We can decide what we're going to do with the situation. So we really, we really have to, not have to, but I invite people to really believe in something better, believe in something, other than yourself, that there is something out there, that when we go through challenges, what do we learn from those experiences? Like, what's the lesson that we learn is my belief.
And that's awesome because, part of, at least from my experience with what you're sharing, is it's intriguing because to me, if you're not experiencing things that almost erupt you to be far more awakened, and it doesn't mean that we get to choose our lessons, because our lessons obviously are things to help us go to the next stage.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And it's depending upon somebody's belief system. I mean, mine is God and Jesus, not in such a religious doctrine way, but it's something that no matter what somebody's, higher power, source, God, divine, whatever it may be, it's still something that the human condition, if you're going to grow, it's not just going to be like hunky dory, like joy.
Exactly. Life is not always going to be hunky dory. And I think, again, for me, going through, I've grown up in a family where we've always had to struggle for money.
Okay.
We've always, money never came easy. We were not the people that were rich. Simple. My dad was the breadwinner. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. I was the oldest of three girls. And money didn't just come easily. And as a matter of fact, I grew up with the belief that money is hard to get.
Yep.
And I've always worried about money. And so I've always come from that mindset that only the rich get richer, and I'm never going to get rich. That was
What
the
a
belief.
what a blockade on you there.
I know that was a huge block. And I was raised with the fear. Everything was fear based in our life growing up. And to this day, my dad is 89 and God bless him. He still lives in a life of fear. Can't change him. But for me, surrounding myself with people that have helped me to grow, mentors, coaches, a lot of reading on my own that I've really learned to really shift my mindset that there is an abundance out there and that we can either sit there and play the victim or we
Right.
can be the victor.
Right. Because something that you said I feel is super important is because we have a theme going on is we can't do it alone. So it's and again, you're a business coach, you're an author. I have my own expertise and do coaching, and but still you've hired coaches, I've hired coaches, but we're both in agreement that there is a God, there's something that is, it's saying, hey, I'm not this person out here that I can do it all by myself. Because and I think, would you agree with this, that because we could talk a little bit about the fear, because that's one of my topics that's near and dear to my heart and my expertise is that is interesting, Tina, is how many people struggle with the ability to ask for help.
Yes. Yes. And because, and I have to say, I was one of those asking for help. For me, I thought it was being weak because
For a lot of people, yeah. I
yeah,
did too.
being,
I did too at one time.
yeah, that I'm weak. I should be able to figure this out on my own. I'm not stupid. I could do this. But you know what? No, we need to surround ourselves with other people. It will also shorten your learning curve. Instead of you figuring it out and spinning your wheels when you don't even know if you're doing it right as
Well,
well.
it's also interesting you bringing that up, because at least that I have witnessed is that sometimes people, let's talk about the fear a little bit, is have this fear of leaving, the people behind, or you're used to certain people in their lives, and certain people in their lives really are the obstacles.
Yes. Oh my God, that is so, that you've heard this before, Christine. Look at the five people you're hanging out with, you're surrounding yourself
Yeah.
with, and you can become like one of them. Yeah, because we get comfortable and we feel like, we're going to lose. Oh my God, I'm a bad person because I'm going to walk away from them, but they may not be serving you. They might not be the right people for you right now. You're growing and they're not. That was the thing in my marriage, in my first marriage. I was growing. We grew apart. He was not growing with me. And I moved on. And today, 20 years later, he's still there, not growing. Okay. And so a lot of times we're surrounding ourselves with people that don't help us to grow. But we feel like we're betraying. Maybe we feel like we're betraying them.
Yeah, it's interesting because I can go, just going back and forth with a couple of, angles on it. Is there is one angle of what you just said about, okay, well, I'm into growth and I'm with somebody who's not. So, well, that's obviously not going to work, because there's going to come a point where this configuration is not going to work.
Exactly.
Or looking at the configuration of asking oneself to say, can I stay in this fixed place for the rest of my life and have joy?
That's
Am I
right.
am I living out my divine purpose?
Yeah. And, if you stay fixed, you're not going to grow. You're not going to look for those opportunities. And I was always looking for opportunities. I was not going to be, and when here's the thing, we got to be open to growing. And
Mhm.
some people are just not open. They stay in that fixed mindset and they just stay there. And then they wonder why their life never moves on, never gets better. And then they blame it on other people when it's really themselves to look in the mirror.
Well, exactly. And what's also interesting, though, which brings up, the topic of, of looking at relationships or workplaces, is that if you're the kind of person who seeks growth and you're hanging around with friends or you're involved with somebody, say you choose to get married or even before you're married, that you like this person, you're attracted to many features about them. And when I say features, I'm not just speaking physical features, is that, but one has to be so aware of who they are. Is this something that's going to help me live my divine purpose, if that's something that somebody chooses?
Right, right. I've always been the type that I've always wanted more. And my family always thought I was crazy because they thought I was never happy because I've always wanted more. No, I was ambitious and I knew that I wanted to grow. I knew that I wanted to learn more things. And if he wasn't, or, the people I was around were not helping me to grow, then I moved on and found new people. I surrounded myself with different people. I mean, over the years, I've grown. I've changed people, family, spouse, family members. I couldn't let go of my dad and my mom. I just limited my time with them because they were part of the problem. Because they were part of the problem. It was always fear. It was always, never inspiring me. So, and but everybody, they were raised a certain way themselves.
Well, see,
So
it's interesting because when you brought that up, because it's when it comes to, often I think that there's a lot of black and white thinking out there,
yes,
and there's a lot of gray and a lot of color in the world, in the essence of that. Okay, if we can begin to look at our parents, this is who they are. Okay, they come from a filter of a lot of fear, but how does one still love them without, condemning them?
right. Right. And yeah, and I mean, I got to tell you, I've been taught some great values that today, I mean, I say, "Oh my God, thank God my dad and my mom raised us this way." And, so there's very good values, that they've, taught us that I've carried on to my kids. And I'm so grateful for that, so because they were involved parents, they were there. I mean, it was a great childhood that I
Mhm.
had, even though it was very, it was just simple middle class family, but we were close. We were together. There was, we ate dinner every night, together as a family. It was really nice,
See,
the
those are joyous memories because are you in Manhattan, New York City, or are you elsewhere in?
I'm in Connecticut, and so
Oh,
we're close.
Connecticut. Okay.
I'm
Okay.
close to New York, about an hour away from
Okay.
New York
Okay.
City.
Okay.
Yes. So, and I've been raised, born and raised I was born in New York, and
Okay.
then
That's where I hear the New York.
New York, I know. And
New York.
I worked in New York City for 4 years, so I must have picked up the New York accent as well. I did. I worked there for 4 years. Yes, as an adult. So I know. And people still say, "You're from New York?" I'm like, "Oh my God, I guess I am."
Well, you sound like a New Yorker, but at the same time, I get it because you can't get rid of the Chicago in me, even though I'm up in Alaska.
Right, right. I know. You're a Chicago girl.
Yeah, yeah. So, but I get it because what you're describing of those family values are very similar to mine. And at least I think, I mean, and tell me what you think of this or through your experiences, is those family values obviously, are a good foundation, even though you want to have a better version of it.
Yes, yes. Yes, there were great times, and the family values were so important, for sure. And yeah, no, it was great. It was really great.
It's interesting is as far as how did I'm curious, so switching gears a little bit, is how did you all of a sudden, like when you worked in, before you were an entrepreneur, what was the trigger in you or something that pissed you off that said, I'm done with, working for somebody else? Tell us about that.
Well, what happened was I was laid off from corporate America. I
Okay.
was in training and development, and one day I walk into my boss's office, and I'm told your job has been eliminated. So working for a company for 9 years and having been promoted 4 months before that to another position, they eliminated my position. So that was the first time that I really started to reflect, like, wow, I now have no job. Now they gave me a package and all of that. And so I took some time to really reflect on my career. What did I want to do? And through networking, I was introduced of a tool that I started my business coaching on, helping women discover their passions, because I learned that a lot of women were unhappy. They were just stuck in their careers, but yet they did nothing. And if I hadn't been laid off, you know, I would have probably been there longer, and I would not have started a business. So again, things happened for us.
Yeah.
And at the time, to be honest with you, I was happy because I didn't have to commute to New York every day. I
Okay.
was saving money and time. At the time, my kids were younger. I was a single mom with the two kids, and it was actually a blessing. It really was. And so I took some time off to really think about what did I want to do next. And so that's really that was the turning point that I said, I don't want to work for someone else and be told one day that your job is no longer there.
Yeah, it's interesting because I have my own philosophies because when somebody says that, I actually don't believe them.
Hmm.
And I'll tell you why I'm saying that.
Tell me,
Because
tell me.
because the way I see it is if you've been doing, whatever job, it doesn't mean that the need, okay, you were doing training and development. So is training and development no longer a feature of the culture of the corporation? So to me, it's more of them, the corporation, looking at ways of, well, how can we condense this? How can we do this with less people?
Yes, yes. And although they eliminated the training department and they eliminated other people's position, I agree with you. They probably condensed it and other people were using it. I mean, because training was an important feature,
Yeah.
and they eliminated my job and others' job. It wasn't just me. And having, good performance, I was there 9 years. I had just been promoted to another department. And it was just, it took me for a loop. It really did. I did not expect it.
Well, it's interesting because why I say what I said is because that tells me a lot about that culture and that what they value and what they don't value. So obviously, they did give you a great gift.
I know. They didn't value me. And that was part of one of my colleagues, she's a coach, and she was my former supervisor. She had left the company, and she said to me, you need to grieve for the job, because I never grieved. I just moved forward and started, my business, started, doing some contract work, got into network marketing. And she said, but you didn't grieve for the job. I said, what do you mean grieve for a job? I don't grieve. I didn't lose anything. She said, yes, you did. You lost the job. You lost the place. I said, no, you know what? They did me a blessing. As I look at it, it's like, you know what? I now have an opportunity to do something else. And I started my business. That's what I did. But however, what did I do? Because of fear, going back to fear, I
Yeah.
went and took a job as a recruiter. So I got into talent acquisition for 11 years, and I did that until 2018. So I was building my business part-time while you're working full-time as a recruiter. Totally stayed there longer than I should have. Let's just put it that way. And I was burnt out, and it was the best thing when I left in 2018. And COVID then hit, in 2020. and it was the best thing. However, I learned another industry. I became a recruiter, but I was building my business part time because my dream was always to be an entrepreneur. It was always to be my own business, and I want to help other women really get clarity around what they want to do, really overcome the barriers. And my own barrier was the fear, because I kept making excuses on why it was never the right time.
Well, that's definitely an excuse. And something I want to go back to, that your friend, your supervisor, about grieving, because what's interesting is this, and I brought this topic up to a lot of different people. And I can remember even when I officially left corporate America,
Mm-hmm.
it not there was the huge side of it was, oh, okay, I'm going to go be an entrepreneur because that's what I want. But then it's grieving the previous identity,
Yes.
grieving the self, not the corporation. It was grieving that, as opposed to, so I think that's what she was referring to,
Mm.
because a lot of times, what you said is something very important for listeners, is that when you go from job to job to job, and often, because of the fear and the excuse that, everybody has creative excuses, and some have better than others.
Yes, we do.
And yes. And so it's something that, to really pause for a moment and to really integrate, because Americans are notorious for go, 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 go. And it's interesting how European countries at least have their set, time. For example, when I have done trainings over there, in, not that I'm flying over there right now, is that through virtual, and they have their set hours.
They do.
They are not going to participate like Americans, that would negotiate with me about, well, we our last, we're done at 5. So if you're going to give this hour presentation, the latest you're going to do it at 4. It doesn't matter that your time zone is it's 7 a.m. It's something that
We could learn from, something that America could learn from.
yeah, it's something that it's intriguing, because folks end up, what you're speaking about is go, 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 go. And it's, we can't stop.
It's
And
true.
the whole fear of, hey, I'm bouncing, 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 without, I mean, I understand there's always something out there to say, I'm, doing and justifying the reasons behind it. I get it.
And you're so right. I mean, I think that Europe, they really know how to live. They relax. They know how to live a lifestyle, and they have more of the family, the time, the balance, the harmony. We're
Well,
go, go, go. And
yeah.
what are we going for? What are we doing?
Yeah, it's something, because I mean, we have the same amount of time they do.
Yeah, we do. They do. And they enjoy it. They literally enjoy their life. I remember when I went to Italy many years ago, they take the whole month of August off and go on vacation.
That's what my point is. Is, I mean, how many Americans, honor that? Okay, I need to take some time off, or I need to pause.
Yeah,
We
I know.
panic. We panic. We have
Yes,
that fear.
we do. We do. We have that fear that, and you talked about the identity, because they could replace me if I don't work, work, work. What am I going to do? Then they can let me go. And we're like, a lot of people that I come across, they are so attached. Their identity is so attached to the company, to the
Yep.
job of what they do. When you ask them, what do you do? They forget to talk about who they are as a person.
Well, I think that sometimes that people don't even know who they are as a person.
I know, I know, I know. And it's sad, but it's really true. And I remember myself, like always, I never really, I never even believed in the word dream. Like there was no such thing as dreaming. Dreaming, really? No, I just had to work because I had to make money. And there was just no dreaming. There was no vision, creating a vision for you. Like this is what I grew up with. This is how I really was. And so I'm so happy and grateful that I really shifted and surrounded myself with different people that taught me the practices, that I apply today, because yeah, I'm so grateful for that.
I mean, that's wonderful because often y- people still live in that, what I would consider, okay, this is what my parents did, so this is what I'm supposed to do. Um, they don't take in consideration that life is more than 2 weeks vacation or earning an extra week, or maybe you've earned up to 4 weeks vacation and working towards a retirement.
I know. We live every day towards retirement when you're in the corporate world. But you know what? And then you may not even make retirement.
Yeah.
And that's the sad part that I've seen people like they're working towards retirement and they don't even get there.
Yeah, or even things as such as, folks being so stressed out, or back to the pain. Because to me, chronic stress is painful.
Very painful. It's the number one killer that affects your health, affects everything. And it really, our stress levels, managing our stress is so important. It really is. And, myself, like, meditating, journaling, breathing, just breathing, reading, praying. These are all, practices to apply in your daily life, daily rituals, exercising, walking in nature, just
Yes.
doing nothing, unplugging,
Yes.
unplugging from social media, unplugging from your phone.
Yeah, what a concept.
I
Because yeah, back to the family values. I mean, people actually did sit at a table without a phone.
remember when we didn't have phones. What did we do before? No phones. Like, oh my God, what did we do? We communicated.
Yeah.
It's like, I have my son, and it's like of course he, never had that. And I said, there was a time there were no phones. What do you mean? We had pay phones. We
Yeah.
didn't call each other, we didn't call on the phone. We got to where we had to go. We didn't have cell phones.
Well, people also knocked on the door and welcomed it.
I know, I know, I know.
Where, yeah, people actually, you shared a phone with the rest of the household.
Yes, I know. What a concept, right?
Yeah, you had to wait your turn, and
I
and that
remember
phone that
that.
had that long cord that went across the entire household.
I remember that. Oh my God, that's so funny. You're bringing back. Yeah, I remember that. It's so true. It is so
Yeah,
true. It's
what a
so true.
concept.
Yes.
And what a concept, that your people, when I say your people, like your school friends knew your family and vice versa.
Yes. Yes. It was nice. When I look back and think it was really nice. I mean, we had challenges like everybody, but I think that it was easier, simpler life.
But I think also that it was easier for people to stay committed to the course.
Yes. Yes.
Because if you said to, for example, let's say, Tina, that you decided that you're going to have a social gathering, and you told, your guests 2 weeks prior, and you handed them, some type of invitation, paper invitation that you hand
Mhm.
wrote out.
Yep.
and
That's right.
and you didn't have and you hand wrote out every one of those invitations.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, you did. And you handed it to all of them, and you said, you coming? And
Mhm.
they said yes or no. There wasn't this maybe.
I
Maybe
know.
I want to see what our other options are out there.
Yep. Yep.
It would be very simple. If somebody said, well, so and so's having a gathering, it would be like, okay, well, then I'm going to have mine on a different night, because why aren't I invited to so and so's gathering?
Right. Right. No, no, it's so true. That is so true. That is so
Yeah.
true.
And I bring that up because I think that there are folks, obviously, we're both Gen X, but as far as, millennial and Gen Z, and the upcoming Gen Alpha
Oh, that would be
generation.
Gen Alpha.
Yes,
Okay.
oh, Gen Alpha, yeah, of things right now. I know a lot of people don't talk about the Gen Alpha because they're still being born.
Oh, wow. Okay. Haven't heard
Yeah,
of that. Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's interesting that a lot of folks that only know today and the technology where we've had both.
Yes. I know. I know. We've had both. I remember, like I said, before phones, before computers, and we survived. We did it. I remember, there was no internet.
Yeah,
There was no Google,
yeah.
you
You
know?
actually could walk to the store and carry a bag or two home of
Yeah.
whatever it was, whatever it was.
I know. I know,
Yeah,
because yeah, I grew up in a family. My mother never drove, so my mother was the stay-at-home mom, and I tell you, there was many walks that we did.
yes. So that was normal. So I'm curious about that. How did those types of values, how does that do you apply that to your entrepreneurial work?
That's a great question because, when I work with my women and they're all in that space that they're frustrated, they're stuck and unhappy and just they're counting on their paycheck. Like, it's funny because I'm working with a client right now and she is in that transition. She says, "But I need that paycheck." So I said, "Let's talk about your language right now. I need a paycheck." So do you believe that you can go out there and create opportunities?
Yeah, what a concept.
And she said, "That's a good point." I said, "So you're relying on a paycheck." That was me. I was used to it. I was comfortable in. I was counting on a paycheck. So I do apply, values because we talk about values in my coaching and, going back to their beliefs. Like we really get, go back to why do they have these beliefs? Where are their beliefs stemming from?
Right.
Where's the money, the relationship with money? Where did that come from? And then I relate
Yep.
my story, and so really because we have our beliefs come from our upbringing, from our peers, who we surround ourselves with. So I
Right.
do bring it into my entrepreneurial business.
Yeah, because you brought that up about, I need, this paycheck. And I think about being, a young person and I know that you're going to relate to this, is because every Gen Xer knows this one, is the parents that wrote you a note to go fetch them cigarettes and beer or alcohol. And so in this whole entire concept of that, this note that
Hmm.
you're 8, 9 years old and you're fetching, for the parents,
Yes.
the alcohol and the cigarettes. And
Yes.
it was
Mhm.
acceptable at the store to,
It was to
yeah,
give
it
it
was
to you because
to
you
give
would
it
go
to
to
you.
the store. I know, because I remember. Now, my dad
Yeah,
never smoked, my mom never smoked, but they drank their beer. We had wine at the house.
yeah,
And yeah, go get me this, go get this, go get that. Okay. You never questioned it. You never said no to your parents. Are you kidding me?
no, that was just normal.
Yeah, it
It
was
was
normal.
normal, and so but there wasn't a question about, they handed you, and back then, $5 went a long way.
It sure did. It sure
And they
did.
would say, "Bring me back the change."
Yes, yes.
Because
Make sure you bring me back the change. Don't keep the change.
yeah, so you
I remember that. It's like, you better bring back the change. I gave you this. Okay.
yeah, exactly, for that $5. Or even if they
Yeah.
give you $3, you could
Yes.
still get, a pack of smokes and a six-pack.
Hmm. Yes.
That was, but I say that because in how today, there wasn't this whole entire thing of I need this paycheck thought process.
I know, I know, just the language. So you have to be mindful of the language, and this is something
Yeah,
that I coach my clients on is listen to your language. What are the words that you're saying? to yourself,
Yeah,
to others, because you're coming from scarcity, you're coming from desperation when you have that
definitely.
word need. I need this. I need this.
Yeah,
And it's definitely a mindset shift
yeah.
um, that people need to. I mean, I'm going to say the word need. That I invite them to be open to it.
Well, and that's why I brought up the example of being a little kid and fetching things for the parents, because there wasn't a question inside oneself to say, is this permitted or is this something? It was just it was just normalized. There was nobody saying that this is against the law. And so it's almost as though those who are, I need this paycheck, because I hear that all the time. I need this paycheck.
Yeah, yeah. I
I
need it.
can't
I
do
have to
that.
pay bills. I have bills to pay. Well, how do you think the entrepreneurs are paying their bills?
Yeah. How do you
They're paying
think?
their bills. And here's the thing. I don't. Entrepreneurship is not for everyone.
Correct.
There's people that need the structure. They need to go to a job. They need to go to a building. Even though, with COVID, they got to see what it looked like to work from home. And some people really enjoyed it. And this is where there was a turning point that a lot of people quit their jobs and realized, like, I need to do more. I need to do what I love to do,
Yeah.
you know?
Well,
So
I think that a lot of people are beginning to come to the terms that they're worth more
yes,
than what they're given.
exactly, exactly. Because a company will only pay you what they think you're worth. They're just going to give you that amount, and you're worth so much more. Okay. But a lot of us would just, again, stay stuck in that. Well, I'm grateful I have a job.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's wrong to be grateful. However, in any moment, they can let you go without any hesitation.
Or this one of, and this is a tricky one, and people have to be really aware of this one. So this is a great tip. So anybody listening to this, I'm going to give something. This is a bomb here. Is it's also the employer out there who writes and says, we have job advertising, is we have this entry level position, and okay, so entry level pay, but we need this amount of experience. You know how contradictory that is. So you want somebody who has a bunch of experience. So how do you get experience being entry level?
Exactly. And I was a recruiter, and we would do that in our
Yeah,
company because they
yeah.
wanted a lot of experience, but they weren't willing to pay. And when I would say, Did you look at the market?"
Yeah. So you want PhD quality experiences, but you want to pay somebody the entry level minimum wage.
Yep.
And
Yes.
you want the brains of somebody with experience.
Without paying them.
Yeah.
Without
And there's a
paying them.
lot of those things, instead of fixing the systemic issues within in the process or within the company.
Yes. It definitely, because the company is only looking out for themselves. The number one is money.
Yeah.
I mean, they're in to make money, of course. I mean, as a business owner, yes, making money, being it, is important, the revenue that we generate. And that's the same thing with companies. The bottom line is they need to generate revenues. They need to stay in business, and they're going to do whatever they got to do to keep their, to keep it happening, make money, be profitable. Okay. And a lot of times they don't value the employees, the talent.
They don't, and it's very interesting because they don't say it, but they illustrate how
Yes.
transactional everything is.
Yes. Yes.
And the transaction is people, to me today, they want purpose, they want meaning.
They do.
And so as an entrepreneur, you can create that for yourself.
Yeah. And I think the biggest value that, as an entrepreneur, we're creating jobs for people. We are helping the economy, and we're doing a great thing. We
Right.
really
So tell us about your book a little bit. Tell us about that.
Okay, so my book is called From Pain to Peace, A
Yeah.
Mother's Heartbreaking Journey Through Losing a Child. So it's my second book that I wrote after losing my own daughter. So finding peace, from the pain is my goal, is because grief never goes away. It's just, how do we move through the grief? How do we grow with the grief? How do we
Mhm.
move forward, in other words? And that's really, in my book, I talk about moving forward. I talk about creating a legacy, honoring your loved one, cherishing those moments, being grateful that you had your loved one and that you spent time with them. And so for me, like, very grateful with my daughter. She was 37, and
Mm.
we had a great relationship later on in life. And I'm so grateful that we used to spend a lot of time together. And so she really loved me and respected me. And she was a beautiful soul. So how do I now move forward is really helping other moms,
Okay.
how to, if I can inspire them to get through their own loss and give them strength on what is their why after they've lost someone. Because I've been, meeting so many moms and dads that have lost a child. And, it's either you can be better or bitter. Like, you
Mhm.
can wallow in self-pity and you will die, okay, a death, but you could be maybe not physically dead, but you could be dead because
Yeah,
you're not
exactly.
moving forward from the loss. And I look
Exactly.
at it this way: there's got to be a purpose for me, and maybe my daughter planted the seed for me to continue. I would never have written this book. And and there was, I struggled with writing the book, because one of the things, and it was a mental block, was how can I think of making money from a tragedy?
Mm.
And that was really something that I've had to work through. And but then it's been presented to me by my coach. He said, but think of the moms and dads that you can inspire from your story.
Yeah.
And I didn't think of it that way. I just thought of it making money from a tragedy. That's all I was thinking.
But what an honor to your daughter to keep her living in a different format.
Right, right. Exactly, exactly. And so I really had to work on that, I'll be honest with you, but it was a way for me to heal and just share my story. I just
Yeah.
wanted to get the story out there and let other people know about my daughter. That was really the intention, because my daughter passed away 3 years ago, and I wrote the book in about 6 months, and I published it within a year. I had it published. It was a quick process because I already had I knew what I wanted to say and what I wanted to get out there. And it was really about, I created the word voice, an acronym for voice, in my
Okay.
book, because in my journey, I was my daughter's fighter. I'm always a
Okay.
fighter. I'm a warrior. I don't believe in quitting. And so I'm always going, 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 and keep going and trying to find solutions. And during the 8 months that she was sick, I was always looking for for a solution. I was her voice,
Okay.
but I wasn't always that. I wasn't. I wasn't using my voice in my first marriage, because I was always the introvert. I wasn't the one that was really had the strength. My job, even in my job, I got laid off, but okay, during the time I really didn't exercise my voice. So I really started exercise my voice after I got laid off, after I got, divorced. And then during my daughter's journey is when I really started to fight for her.
Uh-huh.
And so having a voice for me is, the V is voice, using your voice. The O is optimism. The
Yep.
I is impact. The C is courage. And the E is empathy. And
Awesome.
so during this, I've applied all of these. And if I can make an impact with my story to other moms and dads that have lost, then I'm making an impact. I could be changing lives. I mean, there was one in particular, I'll share a quick story, because my friend's son lost his good friend now, and they're in junior high school. So in junior high, he lost one of his good friends. Couldn't talk about it.
Hmm.
Okay. So my friend bought my book and gave it to her son to read it. And because of my story, he was able to talk about the friend who passed away.
That's beautiful.
I
Good
know. And
job.
I didn't know that until she told me. And she says, it's because of your book. He was able to talk to me about losing his friend, because he wouldn't talk about it.
Well, see that's so cool because that's a lot of not those exact reasons, but that's a lot of reasons why on this podcast about having people to share their stories because I don't know who this is going to impact.
That's right. That's
And,
right.
and having conversations because people don't have to be so afraid or embarrassed about these emotional hurdles, no matter what it is.
Absolutely. I used to feel that being vulnerable was weak.
Yeah.
And it isn't. And, crying, like I've always been viewed as the strong one. I'm always, I could get through anything. And if I cried, it would be, weakness.
Yeah.
And you know what? And this again, through working with people and coaches, you got to feel your feelings.
Yeah.
You really do. You got to be there. And it's okay if you don't feel good today. Honor it, acknowledge it, but move on. Don't stay in that pity party
Right.
and always stay in the victim mentality. Is so important.
Absolutely. So, Tina, as we wrap, I mean, there's so much we can continue to talk about.
Great conversation.
How can folks buy your book if they're inclined, or how can they do that? Is it on Amazon?
It's on Amazon, but on my website, www.fromjobtojoy.com.
Okay.
My books are both there that they can order, and it goes right to Amazon where they can buy my books. And I have
Awesome.
other free resources there that they can take advantage of as well.
Beautiful. Is there any final like inspiration that you want to leave as your final thoughts here before we go offline?
Well, for all of the listeners, I think, just continue, believe in yourself and don't quit. Don't quit on yourself. Keep going and take action, even if it's one little action, and just, really believe that there's something better out there. There's something more for you. Just dream and really, create a vision for yourself on where do you
Yeah.
want to go. I
I,
see it's so important.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Tina, for being here. And I'm going to meet you backstage. But thank you so much. You're a wonderful guest and added lots of wonderful value. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. Okay.
Thank
See you
you.
backstage. Okay. Bye.
Thank you,
Bye,
Christine.
listeners. Bye.
Bye, everybody.